The cannabinoid system is unique because it is so all-pervasive. And what we're seeing now on a biochemical level is quite amazing. We're seeing both hybrid receptors and hybrid ligands. Receptors, we talk about our cannabinoid receptors, right? Cannabinoids, be they are naturally produced ones like anandamide, the blissful amide, or ones that we take in from the plant, THC. Those compounds bind to receptors that are on cell surfaces, in particular, let's say on nervous cell surfaces. They change the structure of that molecule. Here's a membrane in the cell. This is in the cell.
Yeah.
And that activates different chemical activities, like kinase activities, from these what's known as G-coupled protein receptors, all right? Those kinase activities, in turn, modulate enzyme activities, which is now modulating biochemical flow. Some of the ones that get modulated are transcription factors. So now you're changing expression patterns. So what you're doing is you're changing the gestalt of that cell and how it interfaces with its environment. So in terms of cannabinoid receptors, they now documented scientifically to show that there are these amazing hybrid receptors where you have a cannabinoid receptor subunit interacting with a dopamine subunit receptor. Or you have a cannabinoid receptor that both together as one molecule, a serotonin receptor. So these are profound molecules. Dopamines are affecting, all addictive behaviors, which are in part because of their reward system. They're giving you pleasure. This is part of feedback. Go back to the idea of the system again, and how you create new stable, steady states through modulating system interfaces, allosterism, all right?
Yeah.
So that's what we have happening here with dopamine receptors. Serotonin receptors are involved in all sorts of emotional states, psychedelics, all coming out from hybrid receptors interfacing with the cannabinoid system as the regulator of stress, the ultimate regulator of stress. On the one hand, it gives us the food so that the system can move further from equilibrium. Then it modulates all of our systems that are interacting with our environment, our immune system, our musculoskeletal system, our cardiovascular system. All of these are being modulated, our consciousness, through this unique, powerful property of the cannabinoid system to be this global homeostatic regulator that's going to impact on a subcellular, a cellular, and a social level.
Is there a way to upregulate natural endocannabinoids in the body as opposed to...
Exercise upregulates anandamide. And, we know exercise is good. It's all part of this holistic viewpoint of what's happening here, If you look at essential fatty acids, eating omega-3 fatty acids, fish oils, hemp oil, primrose oil, all these seed oils. What's good about them, in part, is that they turn into endocannabinoids and help support that whole lipid metabolism that's modulated by and fundamental to the cannabinoid system and to the working of our brains and to the working of everything within us. Endocannabinoids from metabolites of endocannabinoids and endocannabinoid metabolites modulate things like the health of your heart and the infarct size if you have a heart attack. It's all regulated by the cannabinoid system. So, which is then pumping the blood and feeding the cells. It's all part of this whole story here. And the cannabinoids, everywhere you look, are doing things that are essential for our survival, and our survival not only from the point of view of how we got where we are, but where we're going. All right, where were we going here? Consciousness. So, that's the thing. It flows through us, and our creativity is a manifestation of that flow.
Yeah.
So when you're having a conversation and it goes in a direction, and you stop it and lose it, you can't reconstruct that exact flow again.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we were talking about, consciousness being a limit cycle.
Yeah.
So, we have parameters in terms of our emotions and in terms of, because what can you be doing? You're feeling the now. Where is that now coming from? It's coming from your outside, or it's coming from your inside and your past, or it's coming from how you've assembled the two of those and are able to project a future. You know, and that's what we do. We sit here, sucking in what's coming in, processing what we've already had, and trying to move into a future.
Yeah.
And if you're stuck looking backwards, then you tend to not deal as much with the now, as other than to try and recreate the now as the past. You know, you have those so tightly linked. Or you're a visionary, you look into the future, you take that future, you process it through the now, so that in the next instant you can become more consistent with your environment and minimize the stress, minimize the free radical production, minimize the aging of the system.
Future to the now, or the now to the future. Okay. Together, right?
You want to be as smooth as you can, and in order to be smooth as you can, you got to keep sharpening the knife. And what's the knife? It's the interface of your consciousness with your existence.
Yeah.
All right. So you want to always refine that, minimize the free radical and other negative consequences. And how do you do that? You do that by knowledge of the physics that created us. Because that's what you want to do. Be part of the future. You've got to take where you are, which is the summation of the past, and bring it into the future. Meaning interface with the now, and again, try to always shape it so that you're shifting in a way that's going to optimize your interaction for the future with your environment again, so that you can maintain yourself.
We're going to the future of that future.
Of that, yeah, it's a reiterative process, constantly reiterating, which is what the fractal. Why there's this fractal-like nature to existence. We're constantly doing the same general thing, and that's having the same kinds of consequences. Either a system grows, may remain stable, or decays. That's it. Those are the only three possibilities, right?
Yeah.
So, as living entities, from childhood we grow. We have a natural tendency, biologically, physically, for the structure to grow. We keep eating, makes us bigger. Everything we're taking in is new because it hasn't been come in yet. So that's, you look at the vitality of youth.
Yeah.
That's because all of those things are happening. Then we become an adult.
Yeah.
Well, what that means is that we've had this physical growth and mental growth that went with it, and now the physical growth isn't happening anymore, but we still have to maintain the system far from equilibrium. It was natural during childhood and growth, and now we have to assume responsibility for the thermodynamics that creates us and maintains us. So what we have to do as adults is now gain the knowledge of the process so that we can use the process. That's kind of like the capping point of maturation, is to embrace the physics.
It's in your hands now.
It's in your hands now.
Just eating.
Exactly. Do you deserve to live? Is what it comes down to. We are biochemical experiments. Each of us as individuals, and how we contribute to the whole that's greater than the sum of the parts, which is our species, us.
That's another huge thing I think you just said about the aging and maturation. Yeah, it's true though.
Which again takes us back to the cannabinoid system and open-mindedness.
Yeah.
Can we embrace the knowledge of the physics that creates us, and how do we have the openness and the flexibility to really utilize it, and how successful can we be as individuals and as collections of individuals? What is that resonance that occurs when you have not just catalytic consciousness occurring within an individual, but groups of people who are then shaping society, the interactions of society, the nature of our family, and the outcome of that will be a non-linear change in lifespan. We've kind of dicked around, we improve lifespan because we're a little less dirty than we used to be, and all of these things, but those are not real embodiments of the physics. They are embodiments, but they're not really embracing where it could go. Those are just like little accidental occurrences, and we've got little linear incremental changes.
So you're saying that's going to be exponential?
Once we, as what I would say flips, forward-looking people, start to embrace the future in a way that we are modifying our society to become consistent with the future, then we will have a spread in our consciousness that will change the entire society and how we interact with that society, and that will become more nutritious. from a physical point of view. And that will allow us to maintain our distance from equilibrium for a longer period of time, and we will see a non-linear change in humanity's lifespan. Or we won't do that. We won't become consistent with the physics. We will have a decay of our flow-dependent structure and a decay of our social structure, and mankind potentially will go extinct.
I like the description of humans as flow-dependent structures.
That's all we are.
It's true.
And, you know, our health is dependent on it, and our health is not simply the health of an individual. It's the health of the society. And what that health is determined by its interactions with its environment. It cannot be a one-way street of taking, making, and throwing out. We have to develop stable, steady-state societies that will be nourishing to the planet as well as to the individuals. It's mandated, and we can't just look back and say, oh, you know, man's been saying this for so many years and blah, blah, blah. Now is the time that we are running out of oil. Now is the time that we are polluting everything. I mean, you go to water, sample water anywhere in the world, and you find it's got, you know, stuff in it that shouldn't be there, and that destabilizes the genetics, and, you know, destabilizes the interactions, and the whole system now is, you know, do we want it to grow or collapse? And those are the options, and we have to become part of the future, not stuck in the past. Because if we make the past our future, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to personalize in an ego sense. You want to personalize in a depersonalized sense. That you recognize that you are this collection of molecules, and that all you are is this experiment, this biochemical experiment made by the fundamental unfolding of the universe. You know, and again, you can place whatever kind of God you want in there, but generalized open system dynamics, GOD, is the way things work. So if you have to put in, you know, an anthropomorphic God or not, this is how it's working. So embrace your God and make this how you live your life.
So is that what you mean by personalized on a personal level? So personalized as in...
Yeah, because we, you know, if you take your energy and you devote it to I, me, you know, like the Beatles song, I, me, mine, I, me, mine, you know, that's constrictive. That's kind of like spiritual constipation. You know, what you have to do is dissociate yourself from yourself, but by doing that you empower yourself. It becomes kind of a Zen contradiction here, you know. You have to let go of everything to get hold of anything, but there's nothing to get hold of. But that whole process seems better than not. You know. So, you know, you gain freedom by knowing that you have none. Even though there's none to gain. You know, so from this Prigoginian point of view, we are these quantized entities, each of us, of this greater biochemical phenomena of humanity, and we are unfolding based on probabilistic physics, and that's the intrinsic quantity. But each of us is unique because we each are these little corpuscles in time and space. You know, these little experimental probes for sampling our local space, but being part of the collective local space of human chemistry. And that goes down to the, you know, level of our tissues, our organs, our tissues, our cells, our subcellular flow-dependent structures. You know, this echoes the truth, so to speak, this biochemical, physical truth through the layers. You know, and again, I tend to limit it to the biosphere. You know, there could be higher forms there that I'm ignorant of, but I don't have to go there right now because there's so much work to be done right here with you know, how we can apply this knowledge to ourselves and see where it takes us. And as we, as a society, become more thermodynamically sound, what manifestations does that have in terms of human capacity? You know, we've talked about it increasing lifespan, but what about human capacity? You know, the density of information flow in our mind has an impact on the time-space that surrounds us. There's like general relativistic phenomena that arise from these things. The fact that we have communication at a distance, as shown by molecules undergoing these spontaneous rearrangements to form dissipative structures, they are communicating. What is the nature of that? And how does that relate to consciousness? And how consciousness serves to feedback so that we can shift, but the limits of our consciousness now, compared to where we might go. Interesting thought. So cannabinoids, because of their all pervasive nature, I almost said perversive nature, which is part of their all pervasive nature too, because of pleasure, etc. But where do they take us? How do they help integrate us for the future? And I was going to say something, and now I lost it. We'll have to end this one here. Oh no, I know where it was. The mind-body connection and cannabinoids being part of that. If they allow us to have the flexibility to interface with our environment to a sufficient degree that we can gain enhanced nourishment, what does that mean with respect to health? One of the things that I think is a possibility is that the placebo effect is regulated by our endocannabinoid system. So it's kind of like manifestations of inner hopes and things like that come together and kind of peek through and give us health. 30% of any experiment where you try a drug, people improve on their own without the drug. Yeah. That's us doing it. It's kind of like, what's that religion? Christian Science, in a sense, ties in with their beliefs in a sense, but from a scientific point of view. Yeah. If the placebo effect is regulated by cannabinoids, and if cannabinoids are the mind-body connection, and the mind is a manifestation of these thermodynamic principles, what happens when we integrate the three? This is again back to the
three feeding back into each other.
Catalytic consciousness, a new whole, an improvement of health of us as individuals and society.
Yeah.